My name is Alex Ricci, and I have a very simple but interesting timeline that got me up to this point and what makes me me and how I got to where I am today. So we're saying that this is my place in Canadian history. My story starts with my great-grandpa Hugh Lawson Brown, who was born on August 4th, 1902 in Dale Mellington, Ayrshire, Scotland. He worked in the coal mines since he was 14, but when World War I came along, he was forced to go work in the factories. Then in the mid-1920s, Hugh met his soon-to-be wife, Elizabeth Haney Brown. She was born on May 11th, 1914 in Ayrshire, Scotland. They got married a couple of years later, then had my papa, William Haney Brown, who was born on June 11th, 1939. At this time in history, World War II was going on, and my papa and his family were in the United Kingdom, but the Allies and the Axis powers made a treaty to not bomb major cities, so they weren't in any sort of trouble or danger, but they lived in a small town, so they wouldn't have been a target anyway. So for my papa's schooling, he was a very good student and he really liked school. Some of his favorite subjects were history, geography, and carpentry. He also had a good childhood outside of school, playing sports like soccer. He took any job that he could to find a way to get money for his family, such as things as clean windows and be a chimney sweep. But when my papa was 15, he left school to go start a 5-year apprenticeship to go be a carpenter. After that, he was called up for his 2-year mandatory military service, but he did an extra year and a half, so it was about 3.5 years total. He was a qualified tank gunner instructor. He was posted to Libya from 1959 to 1962 in a town called Tripoli. The reason that they were there is because King Idris, who was pro-West, was kicked out of power. Then a dictatorship formed that was led by a man named only as the Black Prince, who was anti-West. So they were there to just make sure that if he tried anything on the West, they'd be prepared for it. While my papa was in the army, he met a girl over pen pal who was trained to be a nurse in England. Her name was Andrea White. She was born March 23rd in 1941 in a small village called Sutton in Craven. They talked more and more and eventually met and married the same year that my papa got back from overseas on December 22nd, 1962. In 1969, on March 2nd in Girvan, Scotland, my mom, Vicky Brown, was born. She was the second youngest of three, and she had a pretty smooth childhood and academic career as well. She was very fortunate because she always had food on the table and clean clothes and a roof over her head. My mom did an array of sports such as swimming, tennis, and skating, as well as played many games inside school. But in 1985, my papa was at a crossroads because there wasn't any work where they were, so his first solution was to immigrate to Canada. But everyone was skeptical at first, but he thought it was best for his family, so that's what they did. So in 1986, they immigrated to a small town named Newmarket. But if they didn't do that, I am 100% sure that I'd be a completely different person, and I would not be talking about this history because it wouldn't be my history. I'd be talking about some other history. Anyway, my Nana and Papa found work almost instantly, but it took my mom some time to find a job. For the first 6 months, she stayed at home with her Auntie Isabel, which was my papa's brother's wife. His name was Angus Brown. She first found a job at Hallmark Cards, but then left to go and work at Speedy Auto Glass. What little did she know that one choice would change her life forever. One day she got a call from a man who worked for an advertising company in Toronto. And they started talking and talking, and one day decided to meet, and the rest is history, because that man she was talking to turned out to be her future husband and my dad, John Arnold Ricci. He was born on July 6, 1970 in Woodbridge, Ontario. They got married on November the 11th, 1995, at a little church called Brown's Corner Church in Markham. And then 6 years later, in Richmond Hill, York Central Hospital, on August 4, 2001, I was born. But during that time in the world, there was a very devastating tragedy, probably the most in history. The thing I'm talking about is 9/11, when the planes crashed into the World Trade Center in